Welcome to day 3. This is flocking. I'll be your flocking guide as we discuss flocking. What is flocking? Flocking is a way that we can control what we term agents in LightWave and give them things to do, goals to, places to go. And real quick, real simply, I'm just going to open up the main flocking master panel here. So this is where we quickly add and have control over all the aspects of our flock. We, in LightWave 11.5, have added the ability to calculate these motions using multi-thread, which is always the best because, of course, we spend the money to get all those threads. We ought to be able to use them, right? So what I'm just going to quickly do, just to kind of get this going, I'm going to add a generator and I'm going to add a goal. Now, the generator is where my flock is created from. The goal is where they're going to go to. In my settings, the flocking, I have my agents. I can even use agent variants. I can change their behavior. Currently in 11.5, we have 3 different behaviors. We can set predator, prey, and neutral. And exactly as you would expect, predators chase prey and neutral don't care. So what I'm just going to do very quickly is I'm just going to take my agents here and I'm going to give them a size. This agent size gives them knowledge of their neighbors, and I'm not going to run through my neighbor. Again, so I'm just going to drop this match velocity because I want them to be independent, and let's go max speed. I'm going to change this to 15. Now in my goal, I have the ability to tell them, hey, when you get close to me, slow down, or not. Let's just continue moving around. If I do that, let's just take that away. That's going to be the decelerate radius. I'm going to lose this. So as I hit calculate, you're going to see essentially gnats, right, flowing around this goal object. It's now calculated, and so let's just take a look at this. We have a few different ways that we can use these flocks. These flocks are particles, so we can attach anything that we can attach to particles to these guys. We can also drive our instancing system with our agents to control, for example, maybe things running across the ground surface. Matter of fact, let's just go ahead and look at that. We've here very quickly, very simply set up a director, a flock generator, and a goal. If I move the goal way away and hit calculate, you'll see that they then fly away heading toward the goal. This, again, very, very simple, but this same exact setup is going to be in this scene that I'm now going to load for you. And this is an alien army. And what we're telling the agents here, just going to prove a thing right here, is to run across the ground plane, and this is just a flat ground plane. Now, as you can see, if I let these generate, these are actually running quadruped aliens running across the ground. You might ask, well, aren't they all going to look the same? Honestly, they will, unless I use an MDD cache that I have saved out prior of their motion, and then offset maybe 5 or 6 copies. Once I do that, I throw it into the instancing and attach them to the agents. They will then randomly be mixed in and amongst these this group. As I move down here, you'll see that they are locked in. I'm actually using VPR here. This is our fully interactive renderer that I can constantly work in. So again, what I'm doing is I'm just controlling them to be on the ground. The way I'm controlling them to be on the ground is with our node editor. If I pull up the properties of this generator and open up my node control, you'll see here that I have a node that is for my agents. So this is each individual agent, and I'm just running it through a multiply. This multiply is just zeroing out my Y and then feeding that into the position control of the agent. Very simple, very straightforward. If, for example, though, I wanted them to move, say, across a displacement, I can do that too. Again, this is going to be with the node control. In 11, if you're a current user of LightWave 11, we had a button that was just lock it to ground. That was a little limiting, so we wanted to give full nodal control to our agents, and so that's what we did. Real quick, I'm just going to set up an example of this following a ground plane. So I'm going to use my modeler tools, and let's just create a ground plane. And I'll create something large, and I need to give it quite a few segments so that we can see the deformation. So I'm going to open a deformation. I'm going to make a node. I'm going to add a turbulence node. And we're going to, let's take this into a vector. And feed this into the input of my deformation. So now we are using a little bit of I need to change my scale here. 1 meter might be a little small. There we're going. So now we have a deformed plane, simple deformed plane in layout. Since I did this particular setup, let's go ahead and copy these. Again, let's go to our master control. Flocking, we'll add a generator, and we'll add a goal. Now, I can change the OpenGL color of my agents here in this master panel. Maybe green wouldn't show up so well. Let's maybe do a dark red. I'll move my goal over, and I'll move my flock agents over. We're going to make this a little bit larger, so let's make this a little bit bigger so that we've got a wider group running across, and let's change our arrival radius of our goals as well. Calculating again, they're just going to run not very realistically, certainly, because I haven't told them about the ground plane, especially this displacement. So let's go back to my agents. Go ahead and again, let's give them some scale and change my max speed up. And now let's open that flock and get into its node editor. I can just hit paste to bring back in what I had already done. Again, now though, I need to have my agent node so that I can control them. Again, I want to wipe out any movement that I have currently on there. So let's go position into A for our multiply. Let's keep everything but the Y, so we zero it out. Let's then add that result to the result of my displacement and feed that result into the agent control. And now hit calculate. Now they're running across the ground. So here again, with the node editor and with our node system controlling the flocking agents, we've really gained quite a bit of control over these things. Let me get these panels out of the way, and now we can see them as they move across. We have a few other visual reference guides that we can turn on in these guys. So I might choose to show visible trail frames. What I can do here is this is turning on an individual path that each one of them is showing. It might actually be hidden by my ground plane. I can open up my scene editor and hide that just for the purpose of showing you. And there you go. Now you've got those motion graphs. That can help too when you're trying to pre-plan, work something out that's going to be in front of them and you've already run your calculation. That gives me another topic that I can talk about, and that's currently my goal is just a point in space. I can actually use a mesh to be my arrival location. So let's look at something that's set up with this. If I bring up this particular example scene, this has, as you can see, two blobs. These have deformation on them. They're moving and moving quite randomly around in my particular scene. With our new flocking in LightWave 11.5, I can tell those agents to attach to the surface. They still stick even though it's being deformed, and I'm actually growing that agent size. So if I grow that agent size, that does actually mean that what I can do is I can attach that to our hypervoxel engine. If I were to turn on VPR here, you will see that these particular agents are set up to look something a lot like maybe bacteria, or something that maybe this is an approaching virus or an antibody that needs something. As they attach, that agent size that I've actually got controllable is feeding the hypervoxels, so they grow as well. And as they grow, they fill up and cover the surface of these attacking blobs. It's worth mentioning too that this ability of these guys to somewhat know their neighbor is it can lend itself to some interesting things as well. If I were to bring up this particular thing, which is and hit calculate, you'll see that because of their attractive nature, there's no goal in this particular scene, but their attractive nature to one another makes them, find your buddy. So they move in close. Again, we animate their scale. They push against one another and fill this up, much like growing a culture in a petri dish. Being able to go to a different shape can be quite powerful. Let me bring in an example here where instead of using a blob, we're going to be using maybe some recognizable shapes. So what I have here is I've got two goals for these things to go to, but one of them is text, and through animating their attractiveness, I can tell it to first go to the text as we spell out 11.5. Again, we add in some displacement, so any displacement that I do to my base attractive goes to them. Then I can tell them to go to another shape, and they then attach to that. Creative possibilities here for doing logos, for doing title cards, things of this nature, especially text effects. Now, everything I've shown so far has been either a location, say to a null, or a location, say to the shape of an object. We have a few options too, even beyond that. Let me do a quick clear scene and throw in real fast a generator. Need to always have a generator and another goal. Now what I'm going to do here, even though I kind of like purple, I'm going to change that random color. So I'm going to change this goal to a path. This path is a lot different than a single location. As I move my path around, you will see, maybe if I change its color a little bit, you'll see here that it's leaving behind somewhat of a gate. These gates tell me or describe for me, the artist, that this is the tube that I'm sending these things through. If I hit calculate, then they're going to move through this path. This opens up ideas for maybe blood going through veins, maybe cars racing around the track. Maybe those cars aren't cars, maybe they're spaceships or something. Funny you should ask that. Thank you. Is that we can pull up this, and I actually have an example. And this will also allow me to make mention of another control that's in there that is automatic banking. If I hit play now on this, you'll see these ships running around. The banking is actually being controlled by the flocking behavior. So doing cars around the track, they're going to steer. Doing planes around the track, like I'm doing here, they're going to fully bank and change pitch and everything as they're moving. Now you might ask yourself, okay, this is all great, this is wonderful, but how am I going to control them if they're running or having to run around things? Am I going to have to do all of this with multiple paths or not? We have a control for that. It's called avoid mesh. Let me load in a scene here that has this set up. And what I can do is I can tell any bit of geometry. I can tell the flocking control system that this area is to avoid. What I have is I have these pillars here, and I've just made a simple control object, just a cylinder, to go around them to say, don't go here. I want you to avoid this. And as you can see, this particular generator is just a large location. The goal is just on the other side as well. If I change my grid size a little bit here, we won't see them as they come up. And as they move in and they're moving around these objects, I don't have to keyframe them. The whole thing is being driven by the system. Anyone who has 11 has, I know, played around with flocking. 11.5 has taken that control even further. Adding node control, adding in new behaviors, adding in behaviors that we can control with nodes, the ability of it to work with our instancing system. All of these ships that you see flying across here is only one. It's using the instancing to apply each one of those to each of the agents. Again, our mantra here is, you are the pipeline. We're trying to provide you the tools so that you, the artist, can take your concept from original inception all the way through final. If you have an existing pipeline, our tools and controls should help you out, because we do everything we can to make sure that you can get things into and out of LightWave as easy as possible. So, just because I can, I think, I'm going to go ahead and show you one real fast thing. A nice with the VPR here is that with holding down the shift key, I can click on any one of these surfaces in the viewport and it pulls up that particular surface. Because these are actually using the instancing controls, I can quickly make all of these have a unique color. So if I add an instance info and add a gradient, set up this gradient maybe with, let's start off a little bit brighter. So let's go in here, let's add another color, let's add another color. Why am I going pastels? Is it because I'm in California? I've been in California too long? So as I keep changing this, and now I put in my input to here, put my color into the color, and now you'll see that each one of these ships has their own color. Very fast, very easy, very quick. It's one of those things that, you know, okay, maybe you might need to know a little bit more than just 2 + 2 as far as math goes, but it's simple, it's easy. Once you've done it, as you saw, I did a copy and a paste. You can save those nodes, so you don't have to do that setup again. Nice, easy control. Working in the VPR, especially with this, you'll see that it's extremely quick. This flocking was used in Hunger Games to deal with the tracker jacks. It's been used even for doing, you know, simulation of crowds, you know, simple simulation of crowds moving across the ground, something like maybe was seen in Walking Dead as the zombies walk across. It's practically limitless. If you have the imagination and the drive and the desire, you'll find yourself, well, I wouldn't want to compare myself, but I find that even while I'm on the phone, I might be just kind of tweaking with things, and I'll discover something, and then I have to save it, keep it for later. It's a great scratch pad. It's so fast, you get the feedback so quick, you know what you're doing. Go back here to our army, and you'll see I can actually describe for you here that the way this is done is I've got, if you look in my in my flocking master, I've got 2 goals. These goals, again, are just locations. As they run across the ground, they are the thing that's attracting the three goals, or the 3 armies as they approach. One hands off to another, and you get very realistic movements. Again, you know, it is one of those things I can quickly make mention of maybe one more thing. In the flock, we can cache these. We can cache our simulations. We have to in order to do that, to take it over our network rendering ScreamerNet. In 11.5, we've added something new to the flock generator, and that is the ability to save out a particle effects file. So I can save this out as a PFX and load this into our other particle system that's already been built into LightWave for doing things that it currently can do that maybe you can't or don't have as easy control with the flocking. Load that PFX up, and then you can make it into an emitter and emit others, and the creativity just goes on and on and on. It's a lot like Tinker Toys or Barbie. I might burst into song here at any minute. Controllabilities too. OpenGL color is selectable, changeable, so that you can keep an idea on which is what. Maybe one is the gazelles, maybe the other is your lions. You can easily keep them. That way, you know, just by looking at the OpenGL, which is what. I hope that maybe this has gotten a few people to think about getting into LightWave, getting into LightWave 11. Again, you can go to the website, lightwave3d.com. You can buy LightWave 11 now. You buy LightWave 11. If you have LightWave 11, 11.5 is a free upgrade. There are upgrade paths from past versions. If you have an older version of LightWave and you want to get into this, there's a path from everything. If you started off with a toaster and you still have LightWave from there, I'm sure we can figure out a way to get you back into LightWave and get you up to LightWave 11. Things are coming fast, things are coming furious, things are coming fun. Working in a 3D application should be fun. If it's not fun, why do it, right? If it makes you unhappy, then don't do it. I have been using LightWave now for 20 years. I've enjoyed every day that I've worked with it. I feel a song coming on. I do have another demonstration that I'll be doing later on instancing. I'll be covering that a little bit more in depth. I can go ahead and quickly talk here. This agents, we have a variance that we can activate. If we use that variance, it can change the dynamic within the group itself. I have takeoff control, so I can give them an initial velocity. Maybe they don't have to start away just from a dead stop. They can actually start going in a particular direction and then change to my goal. We can change our generator shape, box, sphere. We can change all of our turn rates, maximum, minimum speed. Again, these are texturable and animatable using our graph editor. The particles using agent size, this is how we can control the size of the things that are being applied to it that are, maybe they're hypervoxels, maybe they're objects themselves. If I click this, then as you can see down here real quick, that as I change this back and forth, it's actually changing the size of my aliens, and because they're actually different sizes, then it's being changed. The show details determines whether or not I see that ring, decides whether I see the other things that might clutter up our OpenGL from time to time. This helps with being able to see different things or not see different things. We can hide them as we want to. Again, we have the ability copying and pasting. We can copy from one, paste to another. so that you don't have to do, if you are doing multiple generators, you don't have to do just one setup and then remember them. You can copy, you can paste. Everything uses the node editor for multiple controls. We get the master properties panel, which everything is together